All right, so now we have this basic room established. We're just going to add a couple of extra details in order to start thinking about how we can use this technique in order to create a little bit more of a believable space. So this is going to be all about the details, right? And as you can see, I don't know if you can see this on the screen, right? But I can still see the vanishing point here. It is still kind of ghosted out. So that's something you want to make sure that you are still able to locate. If you can't see it, take your ruler and with a very, very light line, just draw a couple of lines using those floor tiles, and where those two, when they extend and intersect, that's going to be the location of the vanishing point. So it is actually quite easy to be able to find that once again. Right? As we're doing this kind of work, it's going to be really important that you're maintaining a sharp pencil. Right? The more detail that you start adding to a perspective drawing, a technical drawing such as this, right? You want to make sure that your pencils are nice and sharp. Right? So I've actually changed over. I am now using a 2H pencil in order to help with my overall precision. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking a look here at the door, right? And the first thing that I really want to make sure that I'm pointing out to you is if you notice that all of the lines that are above the horizon line are coming down towards the vanishing point. Any of the lines below the horizon line are kind of coming up, right, to that point of intersection. And it's really important to remember that there's that overall sense of direction in the work that you're doing. All right, so I'm going to create a door. With 1 point perspective, all of the vertical lines are always going to be straight up and down. We can just make sure that they are all parallel to each other. So I'm going to draw in one line here for the one side of my door. Right? And from there, I'm going to put my pencil at the top of my line and make sure that the ruler is intersecting with the vanishing point. And I'm going to just draw outwards. Right? And this is just creating the top edge of the door frame. One thing that I noticed in many drawings, as people are learning how to use perspective, is that there's still a little bit of flatness because we don't often think about the interior spaces and recesses in some of the architecture. All right, so what I'm actually going to do now, right, is I'm going to draw another line that comes down, and I'm going to create another line across. Okay? And what this does is this is going to create that intersection of the interior edge of the door frame. Okay? In order to be able to discern that there is an interior ledge here. Right? And again, down at the bottom, right, I'm going to be making sure that there's a line that comes across, and where these two lines intersect, I'm going to be able to create the bottom. So what this actually does is I could actually extend this ever so slightly, these lines, into my doorway, right, and add in just a little bit more tile here to help create the illusion that there is a recess for this door, that the door goes into the side wall. I'm going to add those in here and here, right, just a couple little details. Right? And then I can start adding in some of the additional details as well, right? Start thinking about doorknobs. Right? What I'm going to be thinking about more now is adding some shading. So I'm going to go again to one of my softer pencils, right? And I want to start creating a sense of light and dark, or a sense of light in the space. So by adding in some of the values, okay, I will be able to create a slightly more believable sense of space for the drawing. Right, and with this particular one, I'm also going to reinforce these lines again just to make them pop out a little bit stronger. Right, normally I try and advocate for you to remove these contour lines in your drawings, but for our purposes right now, we're going to emphasize them so that the lines are actually a little bit more prominent than usual. Okay, so so I'm going to be assuming that the light is coming down from the top. Right, and I'm going to be putting a window on the sort of the back wall here, so the side, that interior recess is going to be a little bit darker, and I'm going to press quite hard here to try and get an even deeper value. Okay, for the tops. Right, at this point, right, I'm going to start adding a little bit more shading. I can use some of my different drawing techniques here, right? And I'm going to start adding in a little bit of additional value here. Notice that I'm having it a little bit darker towards the edge here, and as it comes into the door space, it's getting a little bit lighter. Okay. So we have some of these details here, we're putting them in. The other thing that you may want to have for this particular activity, I just got to open up a brand new package here, is a blending stomp. Right? It's a tool such as this. It's basically just compressed paper, rolled up paper. Right? And what this is going to allow me to do is just to kind of blend this in a little bit more efficiently than just with the pencil. Okay, so again, looking for it to be a little bit darker towards the that inside part of the frame. Okay, and again, I can add I'm going to just add a little bit of value onto the wall, and again, I'm going to follow the same basic pattern, where it's a little bit darker, a little bit more intense, closer to that back wall, and it's going to get a little bit lighter, okay, as it comes forward, right? Grabbing my blending stomp, moving this in, right, and using the blending stomp in order to kind of start to blend in here. Right, I can pull back some of that shading just by using my eraser. Right, I'm not pressing too hard, just trying to pick up some of the graphite. Right, and then I'm going to clean that up as well. Okay, same thing with the opposite wall. Okay, so again, using a bit of a softer pencil if you have one. Right, I'm going to have it a little bit darker down on the wall here and bring this up, right? You could even go with an even softer pencil if you like, right? We know that softer pencils blend a little bit easier. Okay, again, I'm not pressing very hard, just laying a base of the graphite down on the paper. Okay, and same on the ceiling, right? It's again going to be darker towards this back wall, right, and get lighter as it comes up towards the top edge of the frame for this particular image. And I'm going to use my blending stomp here to start kind of just blending that in a little bit. Right, Q-tips, Kleenex can work as well. Fingertips, right, it's probably where you guys first started doing stuff like this as well. If you have one of these additional tools, it just helps to keep your work a little bit cleaner overall. And on this side, I'm just going to use that darker pencil, that 6B, just to kind of intensify that just a little bit more. And blend this in and reinforce the edges of my door. Okay. There we go. All right, so what we're doing is we're creating this effect that the light is going to be emanating from the back wall. And in order now to create this window, I'm going to create another parallel line to each of the sides of the walls. And I'm also going to be creating a parallel line that comes down from the top and I'm going to create another parallel line that comes up from the bottom, like so. Okay, so this creates the basic overall opening shape for our window. And again, we want to try and create this illusion of the recess, that it's not just kind of like a picture frame that's sitting on the wall. And in order to do that, I'm going to take from the vertice, I'm going to extend a short line in towards the center from each of the four corners, all going down towards that vanishing point. Like so. And now I'm going to create the recess, right? Again, just lining up the ruler, sliding it over to create a parallel line. And I'm going to do this for all four sides, making sure this time that I'm intersecting where the parallel line meets the orthogonal. I'm going to just go all the way around all four sides. Let's try and get that lined up a little bit better. I wasn't very accurate, so I'm going to retry that one. There we go. All right. So now that I have this window in place, again, I just need to think about the lighting. The lighting's coming from outside. Typically the sun's up above the horizon line, which means that the underside of the window frame is going to be a bit darker. I'm going to use a bit of a, this is probably a little bit too dark. This is my 6B pencil. All right, I can create darkness by either using different softness pencils or by the amount of pressure that I'm applying. I'm just going to change this back over just to try and keep my lines a little bit crisper. Okay, and I'm going to create the interior space here. Right, and this is going to be a little bit darker towards the top and getting lighter as it comes down on both sides. Okay, using my blending stomp here, I'm going to bring that down. Okay, and the bottom, right, this is actually going to be one of the lighter spots in the image, so I'm going to just barely touch it with my pencil, adding a little bit of value just to help kind of give it a little bit of space. Right, and I'm coming in again with my eraser to try and clean up some of these extra lines. Right, working on photocopy paper is always a bit of a challenge. Right, it doesn't usually take pencil very well. It's not designed for pencil, right, but it can kind of help overall. Right, a couple more small details that we're going to add here. Right, this wall is way too intense in terms of the lighting, so I'm going to add in a little bit of value to this one as well. Right, I'm going to slowly build this up by kind of going back and forth in some different directions here. Adding in a base with my pencil. This time I'm using a 3B. Right, if you don't have access to a drawing pencil, right, you want to just do this slowly. Don't start by pressing too hard. Right, it's gonna makes it very difficult for you to be able to correct mistakes. Right, you'll notice that I'm rotating the paper as I'm going here in order to try and make sure that the coverage is fairly even. Going across. Right, and again, I'm going to take my blending stomp, come through. Right, I can still see the pencil marks, right? But what I'm really concerned with here is making sure that I'm thinking about the light, right? And that's the primary objective with this particular task. Right, if we were doing a more polished drawing, we would be taking a lot more time to layer up those values. I'm going to come back in and re-establish that outer perimeter of the window with pressing a little bit harder to get a more solid line coming across. Just so it's visible. Okay. And right, if you're noticing, right, we have all of this idea that the light sort of gets lighter as it comes away from that window, right? So we might want to just kind of do the same thing here. You notice I'm not applying anything to the floor, right? But we can start to create that sense that the floor or the window is creating a pattern of light onto the tiled floor surface. All right, and just by using some shading, thinking about recesses and how different things sort of fit inside of each other, we can use linear perspective to create some fairly believable interior spaces. All right, so give that a try if you want. Again, this is sort of a bit of an extension from what it is that you're expected to be able to do for this particular learning activity. But again, give it a try. There's no harm in making some mistakes, get some feedback, and try your best, right? Good luck, and let me see what it is that you're able to produce. Thank you so much. Hope you have fun.